How often do we wonder about the mysteries of statistical distributions? Well, let's unravel one today, the F distribution, also known as Snedecor's F distribution or the Fisher-Snedecore distribution. It's a continuous probability distribution that frequently arises as the null distribution of a test statistic, mainly in the analysis of variance, also known as ANOVA, and in other F tests. The F distribution is defined by two parameters, D1, the degrees of freedom in the numerator of the F ratio, and D2, the degrees of freedom in the denominator of the F ratio. It's symmetric around its mean, and its shape depends on the values of D1 and D2. As D1 increases, the F distribution becomes less skewed and approaches the normal distribution. On the other hand, as D2 increases, the F distribution becomes more concentrated around its mean. This distribution has some interesting properties. It's continuous and symmetric about its mean, but unlike the normal distribution, it has heavier tails, and its variance is infinite. Now, where do we use this F distribution? It's widely used in a variety of statistical tests. For instance, in the analysis of variance or ANOVA, it's used to compare the means of two or more groups. The F statistic helps determine whether there's a statistically significant difference between the means of the groups. It's also used in F tests for comparing the variances of two independent or dependent samples. Imagine we have data from two independent samples, one with 10 observations and the other with 15 observations. We want to test whether there's a statistically significant difference between the means of the two samples. We can use an ANOVA test for this. The F statistic for this test is 2.45. To decide if this is a statistically significant difference, we look up the critical value of F in a table of F distributions. For a two-tailed test with degrees of freedom of D1 equals 9 and D2 equals 14, the critical value of F is 2.70. Since our F statistic is less than the critical value, we cannot reject the null hypothesis that the means of the two samples are equal. To sum up, the F distribution is a versatile statistical tool used in various hypothesis tests. It's a widely used distribution because it has a number of desirable properties, such as symmetry, heavier tails than the normal distribution, and an infinite variance. So the next time you come across this distribution, remember, it's not just another statistical term, it's a powerful tool for hypothesis testing.